Prince Rupert, British Columbia, home of the wild Skeena sockeye, the most flavorful and highest quality salmon in the Pacific Northwest, a delicacy whose value is cherished by consumers as far away as Japan and Europe. Today, the wild sockeye stocks are being depleted at a phenomenal rate to fill the high-volume, low-cost needs of commercial salmon fisheries and processors. And most of the fish ends up in cans. In the meantime, fish farms are replacing wild fish as the source of much of the fresh salmon available in our markets and restaurants. Farm salmon looks okay, but to control disease and engineer growth, they're fed antibiotics and hormones. Fred and Linda Hawkshaw are out to shift the trend away from farm salmon and back to quality wild salmon. They want wild Skeena sockeye to be valued for its true worth and not stuffed into cans. And they're out to convince other fishermen of the importance of quality over quantity.
Most fishermen, when they pull their net, the fish are usually already dead, sometimes in rigor mortis. And what we're doing is we try and make quick sets of around, half hour, 45 minutes. Pull the net, make sure the fish are alive. We get close to 90% survival. We put them in this tank of water here to revive them for a short time before we put them down in these tanks, and where we hold them for 24 to 48 hours, depending how good a shape they are. And then we bonk them on the head, bleed them, dress them, and you have supreme quality fish.
Katrina Cusey is Director of Community Programs for Ecotrust Canada. Her office is in Prince Rupert, and she works with people in the community who are trying to earn a living in a way that respects the natural resources that they're using. It's called conservation-based development.
The Hawkshaws appreciate deeply how vital it is to absolutely maximize the quality of the fish they bring in. Not just because they're stewards and really care about the stocks and the state of the ocean system, which they really do, but also because to make a living these days, particularly as a small boat out on the north coast, it's a quality game or it's no game at all.
The Hawkshaws use a net with smaller mesh to catch the fish by the maxillary or jawbone rather than through the gills. So the fish don't die in the net, they're brought on board alive. And the amount of bycatch is reduced. In other words, if steelhead or coho are caught, they can be returned to the water unharmed.
And it's live.
For 3 to 5 days, the fish can quite happily live in these tanks and basically relax, and that lets them get back to their normal condition. They return in health just like they'd be as if they were still swimming out in the sea.
Anything can go wrong, it will when I'm doing it.
That's happened before.
Okay.
That's what makes it so perfect.
Whoops, like I said, anything can go wrong. Couple little love taps to the head. Doesn't kill it, it just puts it unconscious. Then I break the center of the top gill raker.
And what they do, which maximizes the quality in a way that nobody else does, is they first bleed the fish entirely. It's a much different process than trying to bleed a dead fish caught in a gill net. Once the fish has been dead for a while, the blood will be seeping into the tissues, and you end up at the end of the day as the consumer with a mushy, bruised up fish. So the Hawkshaws avoid that completely.
Bleed them in water and for about 5 minutes or so, usually until the water runs fairly clear. Bleeding them like that makes the fish clean when we go to dress them. The veins inside the rib cage will be almost non-existent. You might just take a little bit of scraping to scrape the last final bit out. But basically it'll be almost clean.
There he is. Ready for dressing. Bone end marks, just caught by the maxillary.
This is after bleeding and dressing. The veins have been scraped on the sides What little bit of blood was in there is gone now. And we break the bones in the spine here, so we get all the kidney out of the fish. And we also take the sweet meat out of the front of the fish right here. There's some bright red flesh right in this section right here. We scrape that out so it doesn't turn brown after it's been sitting on the shelf for a few days.
They've experimented over the years with how to get that ice to optimum temperature and consistency so that the fish, so that the salmon doesn't go into rigor mortis.
This fish is still flexible. It's not gone into rigor mortis. It hasn't been left sitting around, so it's still supple. If your fish goes into rigor mortis, it tends to make the flesh gape when you're, after you process it and you fillet it, then there'll be a bunch of gaping in the meat of the fish, so it doesn't look as nice if it's smoked or whatever. It's just much better if it's done before rigor sets in, clean.
I've witnessed this myself, taking a fish down to Vancouver, which was put iced in the way that the Hawkshaws do it, and 3 days later when we took it out of a box and it was still in ice, it was the same texture and firmness as though it just pulled out of the water.
The Hawkshaws are out to revolutionize the way most small fish boats operate. They want others to follow their example of catching and bleeding live fish in order to deliver the freshest fish to the high-end restaurants and markets who are willing to pay more for it. By catching less and selling better quality fish, the Hawkshaws are doing their part to ensure the wild salmon stocks of the North Coast will not be completely wiped out. That has happened elsewhere, when large canneries demand large quantities of fish for processing and export.
There aren't that many all-wild fisheries left. So what the Hawkshaws have done in the last few months that no other small boat has done at all is sell their fish, their sockeye, direct to top-end restaurants, organic food stores, and sushi buyers in Vancouver.
In one season, the Hawkshaws have proven that their fishing method is economically and ecologically viable, and it's conservation-based. Through direct marketing of their fish, they've found they're able to make almost 3 times the revenue that their counterparts make catching and selling salmon by conventional methods.
Through my office in Prince Rupert, the Ecotrust Canada office, I've seen tremendous interest grow just this one season in what the Hawkshaws are doing. So the word is out there among the fishing community, and we think that's a really great thing. What they're doing in that way and setting that example is creating a place for other small boats to survive if they want to follow the quality path and really start to earn more money per pound, per boat, per family, for pursuing a livelihood that's got a lot of history and pretty heavy meaning here on the North Coast.